I wanted to create a pirate ship video game asset, but I wasn't sure exactly what kind to make. It could be like a broken down, ripped apart, sunken ship with rotted boards and a sideways dissection where we could see the multiple levels like these. Maybe I would cut it in half right here. Or it could be a detailed ship with a decorated interior so that we could walk around in first or third person perspective. Or maybe it could be a very low poly model intended to be used like in a tower defense or viewed from a top-down angle at a distance. I want to create all of those ships in this multi-part video series. And to do that, we're going to build a common starting point in this first video, and then later videos will sort of fork or deviate from where we leave off in this video. So each video will come back and start from the base shape that we create in this first video. This video is for you if you want to learn a simple approach to creating a ship hull with clean topology. I went ahead and created some additional components to complement the overall shape of the ship. I didn't spend a lot of time polishing them, since later videos will most likely replace each of those components to be more contextually relevant. For instance, I wouldn't want to get too detailed in the ship hull if I planned on cutting it in half and then breaking the boards apart and creating holes and such. But I still wanted to show some quick approaches to doing things, like cutting a hole in the floor, like right here, or right here. And I wanted to show maybe how to create a wonky door like this one, or just some stairs. Another example of something I wanted to show is how to create the ship's ribs and keel. Mostly intended to be used if you were going to have the ship cut in half and you could see through the different levels, but mostly I just wanted to show my general procedure for getting the shape of the ship with some pretty clean topology. So I didn't bother texturing anything this early in the process, since that's what we'll do in the later videos. For instance, if we were going to have a sunken ship that's broken down and rotted, then the wood would look different, and some of these parts like the railings and the hull and these bands, these would all be broken in half, and they would be different shapes, and so the UV unwrap would be different, and I didn't want to do that this early in the process. So for the most part, I'm just going to build most of it in this solid view, and I'll use this matte cap viewport shading setting. That's why it has all these weird colors. And I also enabled the cavity setting here. Since the total footage was about 2.5 hours, I had to set the speed to about 2 times for most of it, but I still think that's perfectly slow enough to be viewed without slowing down the video. Of course, you're still welcome to do that. All right, cool. Well, I'm excited to build and texture the ships in later videos, so let's get this one done. All right, cool. Well, I'm mostly excited to build and texture the ships in the later videos, the more specialized ones, so let's get this one done first. So I'm just going to start by creating a cube and scaling it. I'm going to scale it on the Y by 4 units, and I think I'll scale it on the Z by 0.85. After that, I'll add 8 lateral loop cuts. And you'll notice I like to use the little panel in the bottom left throughout the video. I just like to be able to see the numbers in case I want to do it again. So I'll scale the bottom using the sharp fall off with proportional editing, and that creates kind of the general shape of the hull. Next, I'll switch to side view, and I'm going to start pulling the bottom vertices in to create the front. The front of the ship will be here on the left side, and on the right side, in a moment, I'll pull in the back vertices. You can see the exact amounts here on the bottom left, but again, I'm using proportional editing with the sharp fall off. I'm just going to shrink it a little bit on the Y. I know we scaled it by 4, but I just like the overall shape didn't look right. And later we're going to actually extrude off the back, so it is going to get longer. So I'm going to do a bunch of vertical cuts with the knife tool, like with the keyboard shortcut K. And then make sure to use C to cut through, so the C modifier each time I'm pressing C. And then you'll see I scale along the Y0 just to kind of straighten them all up, because I might not be cutting vertically very well. I'm going to do that here in the front. I'm also going to do those same cuts in the back. Also, I'm gonna add some like additional like cuts here, and that's just so that the kind of the size of the different quads will be like more similar, because you notice like some are very dense, some are very sparse. The main reason is in a moment we're gonna scale it along another axis, and these vertical cuts will create like a smoother curve around the front and back. You'll see here in a moment, but I added some extra loop cuts just here in the middle just so it'll look nice. We truly don't need that, but if you don't, then that white area in the center will maybe not scale the best when we like use proportional editing and scale along the X here in the front. So also note that I did not grab all of the front faces just now. I left a couple at the bottom unselected, and I'm gonna actually specifically go grab those in a moment. You'll see I'll kind of like tweak them here. It's not perfect, but I'm going to delete these top faces, which is the floor. We're going to create a separate floor later, and that'll be a separate object with a downstairs and an upstairs and such. So it's going to delete those for now. I want to kind of work on the back section now. So I'm going to grab some of these back, like top vertices, and kind of extrude them up on the Z. I'm going to do that in multiple layers, and I'll just kind of create like a diagonal between them. You'll see here I'll connect those two and then create a triangle. Kind of tracing the overall shape with my mouse that I was kind of going for. I'm going to pull up the front of the ship faces to create two different levels. They won't be as steep as the back, and if you were in the back of the ship and you were like standing at the steering wheel, the helm, you'd want to be able to see like over the ship in front of you. So you would want the kind of the back levels to be taller than the front levels. And again, here's where I create the triangles, just by connecting two different vertices and then using F to fill. In the beginning, I'm just going to create a very rough shape for the rudder. This is not the final rudder that I would intend to use. I just wanted to kind of get a general size and shape. I also had the idea of putting a kind of a back deck or a porch. I'll do that later, but I just wanted to kind of put something in place where that would kind of represent where that would go later on. But again, I wasn't really worried about polishing, just kind of blocking out what the ship would look like. And again, here's the rudder. So at this point, I kind of remembered that I wanted to kind of scale in the back parts of the ship first, kind of like we did on the front, but not as much. So I had to delete those extruded like edges. We can add them back later, but you see I want to scale along the X here a little bit. With that done, I mostly just need to rebuild those back faces and kind of get the general shape of the back of the boat. It's pretty boring, so I think I'll speed up most of this part. I decided I wasn't happy with kind of the bottom faces, and later on we're going to extrude those and create the keel, so I just kind of wanted to get them a little bit more uniform shaped. So I'm trying to get a feel for where the floor is going to be. Obviously you've got the main deck, and then you've got the deck on like the upper levels in the back, and then the upper levels in the front. So I'm trying to find like all the edges, or the edge loops, which are gonna, in a moment I'm gonna separate them, like with the Shift D to duplicate and then P to separate, I think. And I'll create kind of the decks or the floors out of those. So you can see here I'm finding the ones for the front upper deck. I use Alt click to be able to select edge loops, but sometimes it doesn't get all the way around. So there's P to separate, tab to exit, click on it again, make sure I've got the edges selected, grab those, edit mode, and I'm using F to fill. Later on I'll add some like loop cuts and stuff and fix up the topology here, but I'm just getting the overall shape. I grab the edges and use E to extrude and then extrude down on the Z axis. Just again trying to block out for now like what this might look like. I had to kind of go inside of the hull to see this. One thing I would point out about the solidify modifier is it matters what direction the normals are facing. So you'll see me throughout the video like use F3 to open up the help menu, and then type in flip, and I'll just flip the direction of the normals. I use the solidify modifier quite a bit. So this is my general approach to it. So at this point, I'm going to create the bands, that like the horizontal bands that go around the outside of the ship. And as I was saying a moment ago, the direction of the normals determines the direction that the solidify modifier grows. So you'll see here I enable the kind of the different view that shows if the red are the back faces and the blue are the front faces with that face orientation button. Then I re-enable the solidify modifier so that I can control which direction it grows for the whole thing. Next, I want to make the keel. I just want to grab the bottom faces. I'll duplicate them, Shift D and then P to separate. Then kind of clean up some of these larger ones in the back, and then I'll extrude them. Or maybe I'll use solidify modifier actually. Kind of wanted to get it uniform, so you'll see I use numpad 1 to go into front view. I'll grab the edge loop, scale on the X0 to straighten it, scale on the X0 again. Then I have kind of a nice straight, kind of a rectangle shape. I flip the offset so that it grows out. And here I'll just delete some of the back faces. So I'm going to grab this first one, just kind of extrude it forward. This isn't really what I would want to use for that. I'm not actually sure the name of it, but like that pole that faces at the front. there's usually some sort of emblem or figurine that hangs from the front. I would actually delete that and I would create my own and have like a little bit of an area you could walk out on, maybe a step stool up to it. But for now, I just want to get the general shape. And so now I want to create some of the ribs, I think is what it's called. I'm just selecting like every couple of like the vertical edge loops. And then as usual, I'll duplicate them and then separate them. Probably use the solidify modifier. There they are, they're separated. And I isolate the view. So the areas toward the bottom were too close together for the solidify modifier. So I'm going to go a slightly different approach on this. Okay, so you can see that the faces, the normals are pointing in the wrong direction for some of the faces. So first I'm going to delete these bottom faces, just kind of so that they'll be separate a little bit more. When I tried to bring them together, they were kind of had overlapping vertices or overlapping faces, and I kind of thought that wasn't going to look good. Plus, you're never going to see those. So you'll see I delete some of the bottom ones and just kind of bring them to a kind of a uniform distance from each other. I'm going to delete some of the top ones too because the ribs or the skeleton was kind of up onto the deck or up into the captain's quarters, and that they were just too tall. I'm going to select all the back faces and flip the normal directions. It doesn't matter what direction they're facing as long as they're all facing the same direction, then we can flip them all easily. But these little one-offs, they have to be flipped. So now I should be able to use, yeah, I flipped all of them, you saw. And I should be able to use the solidify modifier now and control what direction that they all grow. You see how the bottoms kind of get close to each other? And that back rib actually points out the top. That's why I was deleting some of the top ones, but there's still more to delete. I'm going to speed up the rest of this section because it's mostly me just deleting some faces and kind of nudging things around, so it's kind of boring. Cool, so in this section, I just kind of wanted to separate like the deck floors from the deck walls. So I grab these edges and I use this split faces by edges with the edge selected, and then I use that option. You can see now I can grab the walls, kind of the vertical faces, and I can move them around. After that, I just kind of nudge things around, try to get inside the hull, make sure the walls don't poke through the floor. They're all just planes with the solidify modifier, so they're really easy to manipulate. Right now you'll notice everything kind of grows down, and I really don't like that. So later on I'm going to actually flip that. I stared at this for a minute. I was kind of confused why it was not even, but I decided I guess I didn't really care. So I use this trick to fill the faces. You see I just use normal fill and then I convert tris to quads, and I get these. Yeah, so next I just wanted to create some like a crude shape for the railings. If this were like a polished model, I would put a lot more detail into it and kind of chip the edges and cut things out. I might even have like little posts with a railing that sits on top. But for now I just grabbed the edge loop for the decks. I did it twice so that I could do kind of a weird approach to this, but I wanted to be able to create kind of the lateral ones, like the long ones, separately from like the horizontal ones. So the ones in the front and the back would be separate. So you'll see down here in the bottom, I deleted the front and back edge, and on the top I only have the front and back edge. And I'm going to do those slightly differently. So yeah, so basically I'm just gonna, I think I'm gonna use the mirror modifier here, and then I'm gonna kind of extrude along the X. There you go. And then kind of tweaking the size here, sorry. Then I'll probably add the solidify modifier like I usually do, checking the faces to make sure the solidify is going to grow in the direction I expect. Then there is the solidifier. Yep. Make that thicker. Cool. See how it looks. Change the direction so that it always grows up. Kind of resize it. The thing is much later in the video, I'm actually going to resize it again. I stared at it for quite a while and thought, man, this just doesn't, this awfully wide railing. So I do end up shrinking it down later, so you may as well do it now. Now I want to do the front and back, but it looks like I'm not going to need the front. I kind of thought about that. They were already touching, as you saw, so I'll just do the back. And the reason I want to do this separately is because the side I was able to extrude on the X, but this one wouldn't make any sense to do that. So I extruded on the Y and then bring it down. This is a temporary piece. I know for sure that I don't want to have this little black block like long term, so I just kind of put it in there and I don't mess with it. I'm going to make it line up by moving the vertices, but long term I know I don't want this. I kind of want the back to have like an arch, kind of a stylized arch, but I like to add those edge loops. You'll see me do that a couple times. I'll add some like starter edge loops before I move things. That way if I want to add edge loops in the center, they'll be straight and they won't kind of conform to the angle of the sides on the left and right. So if I add an edge loop in the center, it actually will be straight in the center. Here I'm just going to tweak the front, I think. Let's kind of make it line up nicely. You see how they overlap like that? I really didn't like that. My goal is to take these vertices and have them touch, and then I'm going to merge them so that hopefully, well, I'll have to do that after I apply the mirror, but that's kind of the goal. So I apply the mirror. Then I'm going to grab both of those and merge them, probably at center. All right. Then I just want to kind of connect these into like a pointy triangle. So extrude that out. Extrude that out. Again, I'm going to merge at center, and then I should be able to create a quad out of this. It looks a little weird now because it's solidified. That's why I disabled the view. But there. Next, I was thinking that I would just kind of create like a placeholder or a block out for the mast. A mast is really like several parts that are connected up at the top, and for now I just wanted to create like the main posts. I'm going to create like a little like frame or a base for it so that it looks like it's connected to each of the decks via this like metal frame. I think I saw a shape for this on maybe Sea of Thieves or something, I'm not sure, but this is just kind of my mental model for what the frame of a mast looks like. You see I use 2 cylinders with different number of loop cuts just for a lower poly. You could have kept them both 16. So this is some sort of a brace that's going to go around the top. I'll probably duplicate that and bring that down to the bottom. And I'll do it one more time and create the actual base that is attached to the floor. That one right there. Make that one a little bit bigger. I use Alt-Z to go into this like, I don't know, X-ray mode or something so I can see the faces. It's really helpful when you're working with solidify modifier. I do that a lot. If I wanted to really make this look nice, I would apply the solidify and then I would start like chipping and cutting away the edges, but for now I'm just going to leave them perfect cubes. I wanted to create some sort of a kind of a shape that goes around the side. Again, this is, I think Sea of Thieves has something like this. So I'm just going to loop cut it a few times so I can pull it out. It's going to look actually quite similar to the way I did the rudder, and that's fine. But I'll use my mouse to kind of like trace the general shape that I think I want, but I'll just kind of pull these out and create some sort of a, I don't know, like a curve or something. The important thing is that I'm going to want 4 of these perfectly rotated on the different axes. So you see I'm going to actually create an axis, and then I'm going to use the array modifier with the axis and rotate it 90 degrees. You'll see here in a moment. For now I'm just trying to get the general shape of this thing. All right, here's a plane axis. Then I'm going to grab the object itself. I'm going to name it first apparently. There's the object. Now I'm going to add an array modifier. Disable relative. I want 4 of them with object offset, and I'm going to select the axis. Now if you select the axis and rotate that around the Z, you can get 4 of them perfectly rotated 90 degrees each way. Make sure that the origin for this thing is actually in the center, like where the axis is, and then pull the mesh away from the origin. That's how that works. Now I'm just tweaking some sides and stuff. Since this thing's going to be attached to like the deck or something, I wanted, you'll see I do this a few times actually in the video, but I wanted to delete the faces that you're just never going to see. So I'll rotate this and probably look at the bottom, probably grab that bottom face after I apply the solidify so I can get to the bottom face. And I'll just delete those faces. So if I think that you're absolutely never going to see it, I'll delete that. It makes the UV unwrap better, and it's just unnecessary, honestly. Especially if you're going to use it in a game object. If you're just going to take a render of this, it doesn't matter. But since I'll put it in a game object, I actually would like to kind of clean this up a bit. The overall shape and of the ship was like pretty blocky looking, but still it was way too many polygons to be used in a game. I think it ended up being like 10,000 or something. So if this were an actual game object that I was going to bring into Unity or something for like a tower defense, I would want that to be more like 2,000-3,000. So this is obviously too high poly even for that. So the mast, I wouldn't use 16. I wouldn't use 16 faces on that, and probably bring it back down to 12. It really doesn't matter, in all honesty. When you apply auto smooth, you can adjust the angle. So I think anything less than maybe 10 is the minimum. I think if you do like 360 and you wanted to have like 60 degrees or something, I think that you would maybe want like no fewer than maybe 10 faces. If you want like a really nice smooth like cylinder shape for like a mast or a post. So anyways, so I will apply the auto smooth here in a little bit to that mast, is what I'm saying. And I think I set the degrees to 60, but that just depends on how many faces you have. Sorry for that rant. So for the next few minutes, I end up just kind of moving around the walls and the floors and kind of putting them at the right height and stuff. I'm going to delete most of that from the video since it's me just kind of nudging stuff around, and even sped up, it ended up being like 2 minutes. So I'll delete that and we'll move to the next section. So I'm going to create the stairs. They're just some crude stairs. I kind of create one plank using a plane. I'm going to add some edge loops and just kind of move it around, make it look a little chipped and broken, but I don't apply too much effort to this. And also it's the same stair all the way up, just repeated, and obviously we wouldn't want to do that in the final product, but just kind of wanted to show how I do that. So a plane, solidify to give it some thickness, an array, and I move it forward and up on those two axes. So just kind of a general shape. And I like using it, like I'm sure you've seen with a plane with a solidify modifier, it allows me to just kind of adjust just one vertex at a time. I'm going to add some cuts here just so I can create like a chip. There, and I'll delete that, but with the solidify modifier it still fills it. Overall, I was pretty unhappy with the shape of this stair. I would definitely do it again differently, but for the blockout, it's fine. The stairs look pretty dorky, just kind of float in the air. So I added like a post that goes behind them. But what I would do normally is add like railings that go along the side. But I didn't think that was necessary for this. So I just use a plane, again solidify. From the side view we can just bring that down and we'll get a post that goes like from the top step to the back of the bottom. If this was if we bring this into Unity or like a video game engine, we would use a collider. We wouldn't actually like use a mesh collider on the stairs. So that little like that post, I typically duplicate that and create like a flat plane, and that way I can just have like one little collider, and the character actually interacts with that. Just something I typically do. Yeah, so sorry for the rant on that. So with the stairs complete, I want to create a door now. This kind of a wonky door. I'm going to add a little bit more detail to this than I have for most of the other parts of the ship. I mean, it's still pretty chunky, but so I start, as you imagine, with a plane in a solidify modifier. I thought that the door would have two posts to the side of it, so that center block will be like the door when we're done, and we'll have two like kind of 4x4 square posts to the side. So I'm just going to block this out for now, kind of get them nice and close. So I'll add some loop cuts, and then I'm going to grab each of the edges, and then I'm going to, I guess, bevel them with Control B. Delete the faces, and now I have separate planks, and because we used a plane to solidify, they're already filled. So now I'm going to do the same thing I did with the stairs. I'm just going to grab the different vertices and just kind of move them around. I'll probably speed this up. It's pretty tedious to watch this. I just wanted to have kind of chipped and wonky looking wooden planks, but there's nothing really new here. So I thought I would just add like a little handle to the door. I'd create like a little metal, I guess, frame or something that the handle is attached to. The handle is going to be like a ring. So I just use this cube. I'm going to delete the back face since we won't see it. We can scale it up to create like a kind of a beveled shape. So just grab the front and scale it, not along the y-axis. Oh, kind of looks like a button or something, but I'll rotate it a little bit just so it looks kind of broken. in truth, when these things are done, it's really the texture that brings these things to life, I feel. It's not the geometry. So if we wanted like chips and nicks in it or kind of wearing out, we would do that with the texture. So here's the ring for the handle. I just used a circle. I think it's I think I had 6 cuts, I don't remember. Extrude it 2 times. I'll grab the front and back rings and scale them in to create this. I think you could have done this with a torus too, probably, but I don't know. This was pretty quick. I use bridge edge loops with the front and back loops selected. It kind of fills it in. I wanted to add some like metal parts that are attached to the front. I don't like how would the wooden posts be held together is kind of what I was thinking. Like why wouldn't they just fall down? So this is just kind of a metal, I guess, frame that I'm going to put on the top and bottom. I used the mirror modifier so that I didn't have to do it twice on the bottom. But the 2 corners are going to be like right angles, and then the center is just like a bar or something. I really don't know. Just kind of made sense. And again, planes with solidify modifiers. Actually, I apologize. I think I misspoke. I think I actually extrude this one. Let's see. Drum roll. Yep, solidify. I'm wrong. Sorry. But in the end, and I think I remember to do this. I would still apply the solidify when I bring it out and delete the back faces, hopefully. So again, this I spent quite a while on this, and even sped up, it would still be several minutes. So I'm going to bump this up to 4 times speed, and we'll kind of skip through this. So with the door done, I just kind of wanted to put it in place, see what it looked like. That's all there is to it. I didn't want to put it on the bottom. I think the bottom's just going to have like it's not going to have a door, it's just going to have an opening, like the walls are going to end, and you'll just be able to walk in. I thought this was like a door to like maybe a room. You can see, so I moved the origin to the bottom left so that I could rotate it around the Z, and it would actually open and close the door. You see though that if you open the door, there's just a wall there. So I need to cut out some of the actual wall so that when you open the door, it goes into the room. That's why I add these edge loops, and then I'll just press X and then delete faces. And there it is. Now we can actually open the door and see. So I wasn't sure what shape it should be. We'll see in a moment, but I kind of liked the idea of kind of like a curve or something. So instead of a flat wall, it kind of a recessed section of the wall that goes to the door. Probably better to just show than tell for this. I had these 2 edge loops, and then I'm going to grab the sides and then pull that out, I think. There, I'll grab the sides. I think we need to grab both of them. I'll just delete those edge loops, hopefully. Yeah, good. And then now we can just pull those out. So it looks like I tried to extrude them. I think yeah, okay. And then I create that like recessed section. This would be kind of cool. We could like hang a light from like the floor above it or something, and or maybe put like a nameplate is what they're called. You notice from the back that when I extruded it, it looks pretty bad. So there's some faces on the top. You see the little dots there? I'll delete those on the top and bottom. So be careful with that when you use extrude. And then now that's fixed. It looks nice. And that could be like storage or something in the room. Maybe there's like an additional wall there for like a closet or something. Would be cool. One thing I really want to do is create like a highly detailed or decorated interior, but I haven't gotten to it. Cool. So yeah, I'm glad I remembered. So I am going to delete the back faces of that door. That was bothering me. There. And then we'll reattach that. I use L to select all linked faces or whatever. I made sure I deleted the back face off that. I'm going to delete the back facers or the bottom faces off this since they're attached to the deck. You're not going to see those. Cool, and that's our door. So I'll probably speed this up, but this bottom section is not that interesting. I'm just going to cut a hole in the wall and then make it recessed like we did before. So you see the overall shape is pretty much the same. The difference is there won't be a door, it'll just be an opening. So probably speed this up. I'm going to go ahead and create the little platform that maybe the steering wheel would be on, would sit on. I'm not sure if the steering wheel will be here or on the upper level, probably the upper level actually, but I still created this platform for both the first and second story. Mostly I just wanted something to hang over the door or the opening to that room, just so that you could like hang like a light or something, but that's really why I wanted it. So I didn't care for the direction of the solidify modifier here on these floors. I wanted to flip them. So you'll see I grab all the faces and then flip the normal direction. That way I can see the edge loops from the top. Here in a little bit I'm going to cut a hole through the floor, and I thought it would be really helpful to be able to do that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create this cube temporarily just so I can see the overall shape of where the stairs are going to go. Like where is it going to intersect, and because you notice it's not like perfectly straight. Like the sides aren't straight, so I wanted something that was straight so that I could kind of measure with. But in a moment that cube, I'm just going to delete it. The thing is I didn't want to add a bunch of unnecessary vertices to the middle section. So I could have created loop cuts long ways, but they would have added unnecessary like vertices in like the mid section of the main deck. So I actually split. You may have noticed I'll grab that front edge and I'll split faces by edges, and then that way I actually the main deck, like I think right here, split faces by edges, and now that whole back section you can see I can just grab it and move it around. That way if I add a lateral edge loop, it'll only affect these back sections. The problem with doing this is that when I go to texture my deck, it will not be seamless. That's the problem. But I can solve that problem with like a post that goes along that seam if I wanted. And I was going to do that anyways, most likely. So yeah, so I just kind of cut out those holes in the floor, and now I've got kind of a way to get downstairs. I duplicate the crudely looking stairs that I'd already made. I accidentally rotated them the wrong direction to bring them back. And what I notice over the next like minute or two is that it's really not enough room. I think if you were in like a third-person game and you were walking up the stairs, I think you'd hit your head on the ceiling and you wouldn't be able to get up. So on multiple occasions here, I'm going to actually pull this back and keep making that hole in the floor even bigger. Also in this case, I needed to add some additional stairs just so it would go up. I think in the final product I would do that anyways. So I felt that the stairs on the main deck were too few. You see, I can just extend that easily. Oh, so for this, I'm going to grab that edge, not the vertice, the edge. And then the way I kind of pull it straight down is kind of cool. Instead of global, you see I'll click normal, and then now I can grab that handle and just pull it straight down and get the exact same angle that I was at. So for instance, if that were the collider that I was talking about earlier, I could just extend that collider. So I like to use normal for stuff like that. Here I'm just pretending to walk down the stairs and kind of noticing that I would hit my head. So you see I'm pretty unsatisfied with that, so I'm going to pull this back even farther. The one thing I might have done too quickly there is I selected all and I merged all vertices by distance, because when I collapsed those two edges, we would have had duplicated vertices or double vertices at one spot. Hopefully we caught that. So here I'm just going to build a frame that goes around the staircase instead of like a hole in the floor. You know, it would be nice to have like a wooden box frame or something that goes around. It didn't look very good, you'll notice, so I'm going to try again. And what I noticed is that because I split edges, I actually don't have that front edge. You'll see. So that's where I made my mistake. So I'm going to connect those two vertices, use F to fill, and then now I can create some sort of a box shape. I extrude and then scale. And then I should extrude down. I'll probably check the faces most likely, yeah. But I got lucky with the extrude direction. Half the time it seems like I go the wrong direction and then I have back faces. I don't know the logic behind that. I move origin to geometry so that it's in the center. But now I'm going to scale it so that it kind of protrudes along the top and bottom, so that if you were like on this floor or the downstairs and you were looking up, you'd still see it. Sorry. Kind of rambling. I think I need to move the wall a little bit because they're overlapping, and I didn't feel like stretching that all out. So I just moved the wall. Would it be nice if you could do that in real life? So let's kind of open it up a little bit. I was thinking that you might, as a character, you might run in here real quick and want to take a turn, and it'd be kind of dumb if you had to do like a full 180 when you get in here to get back around. So that's why I did that. So I extrude this just so that it shows on both sides, the top and bottom. So I wanted to create like a cargo hold, I think is what it's called, or it's the hole in the floor that goes downstairs, but like the pirates would use that so that they could use like a crane and lower crates down to the bottom floor. So that's what we're going to do here. You'll notice I just kind of, it's not insetting, I could have inset, but I extrude inward and create that kind of hole, but I keep the geometry nice. In the process of doing that, I noticed that the mast actually should run down all the way to the bottom of the ship. I think I just take it to the bottom floor, but it should go all the way to the bottom. So if you're on the downstairs, you should still see the mast, and then I'm going to need a frame for that. But yeah, so back to the cargo hold. I duplicate that edge ring, and then kind of the same thing I did with the hole for the stairs that go downstairs. Just going to extrude, scale. It appears I'm using the solidify modifier. That's, okay, I turned it off. I was like, that's very unusual for me, but yeah. And then I kind of bring it back in. This was kind of a roundabout way of creating that. Then I bridge edge loops. Cool. So with that done, now we need the little, like, I don't even know what it's called, the metal rods that go across, like the screen or whatever. So I just edge loop a whole bunch of times. Then I'm gonna bevel that and then delete the faces to create. So I'm gonna keep only those like center rings or something. I don't know. I wish I knew what that was called. I want to use the proportional editing, and I'm going to bring the center up so that it has like a curve like that. So I use L to select all. So I was bringing it down. Now these are just planes. Remember, they're flat. They have a backside. It occurred to me later that these need to be solid. Also, I forgot to delete one face. sorry about that. I'll knock that out, I'm sure. Yeah, good. So I am going to probably extrude this, would be my guess. So that way, if you were looking at it from the bottom, you wouldn't be looking at back faces. So hopefully that's what I do. But it would be right in the center is what I was thinking. So you could get away with this definitely with a single plane that has like an alpha texture on it. But for now, we're just going to use geometry. It's not adding that much. So hopefully I extrude it here. Great, okay. And then check the faces. And then they're wrong, so select everything and flip. Oh no, so I extrude the opposite direction to just get around that. Sorry. Oh, got some other back faces I noticed while I was in here, so I just grab all those and then flip. Cool. I'm gonna speed up this next section. All I'm doing is just like adding nicks and cuts and stuff into the wood frame. Really didn't need to do that. I don't really know why I did, but it's pretty insignificant, so I'm gonna speed this up. So this section might be like a little silly. I don't know. I just had this idea where like, what if the ship had these like storage like platforms up here, like that come out along the sides? And I was just thinking, like, I don't know, like if for the video game, like what if the pirate ship could have like a garden on it or something, and they could grow their own stuff while they're sailing around, and maybe there's like big gardens up here, and I don't really know, but I wanted to have two platforms that kind of jut out from the side of the back of the topmost deck. You see, I had to flip that face because the solidifier modifier was getting confused. So I'm just going to kind of rearrange them so it's like a different looking curve. This is completely insignificant. I should have used the mirror modifier here, obviously. I was grabbing each one and then scaling along the X. I couldn't have chosen a more difficult way to do this. So, but yeah, I just thought, what if it wouldn't be cool if there was like a deck up here that you could just have extra storage, or preferably like a garden or something. So I'm going to delete these faces of the ship. That way you can get through. We could create like a gate or something. This could even be covered if we wanted, but I had to delete that part of the railing. This is, I think this is the part, or we're getting close to the part where I'm like, you know what, I think that railing's too fat. And then I end up like shrinking it down, making it skinnier. So this is what I'm starting to notice though. I don't really like it. I bring it in, but I notice that the two platforms are not perfect. And so I'm going to create a post here in a moment that kind of covers up those two seams. Sorry for the 4th of July fireworks in the background. But it's kind of rearranging the shape here. I dissolved that edge. We don't need it. And yeah, those two seams are very visible right there. So in a moment, I'm going to create a post to cover that up. So like theoretically, the character would have to step over it when they enter this area. I duplicate the edge rings and then separate them with P. My goal is just to create some sort of like a railing so you don't fall off the ship or something. So I just extrude that. I change the solidify direction so that it fits perfectly. Bring it down a little bit. Again, I would have actual like really pretty railings or something, I think, if I was going to do this for real. And again, here's the part where I'm just going to shrink down the railing a little bit. I grab those inner loops, or maybe the outer loops, and then I scale along the X, I'm guessing. Yeah, okay. And I'll probably do the same thing with the inner loop. I was thinking about how to add that post to cover up the seam, and I think I'm just going to take part of the ship and bring it up so that it's still all one mesh. It seems unnecessary. I could have just made a cube, but so I'm going to grab these edges, and I'm going to add an actual edge loop. I try to think about how to do it and keep it in the same geometry, but it kind of messes up my topology a little bit, but it's fine. So there's 2 edge loops. I'll have to do it to the other side. I wanted to level that out, so I grabbed the 2 vertices and I think I scale along the Z to 0, and I think that flattens it there. I couldn't figure it out. Yeah, scale Z 0. Same thing the other side, edge loop, scale Z 0, scale Z 0. Then I'm going to connect the 2 vertices, subdivide it right in the middle, and then connect those 2 vertices, and now I can fill the faces. There was probably a faster way to do that, but that's what came to mind. There, and that's the air quote post that I was going to create. You'll see when I pull it up through the floor, it looks like one. But at least the kind of the wood texture, whatever I do here, will be seamless, if that matters. I just wanted to take the railing and kind of bring it down here to cover up the wall. Oops. I think I extrude it 2 times, one horizontally and then one vertically. It creates like a nicer corner, I thought, but I could be wrong. Well, fellers, we done it. This was definitely the grunt work part of the project, but we need this starting model to create more interesting and textured chips in the next videos. I want to say that this is now my 3rd YouTube video, and I wanted to try doing one with a voiceover after the video was already recorded. I'm not sure how it'll go, and I'd welcome any suggestions you might have. I will read every one of them, so don't use big words. Well anyways, I have another video to make, so you don't have to go home but you can't stay here. And don't let the subscribe button hit you on the way out.